Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. I hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. Today we have to have a very important conversation. This last week in gaming, there are so many lessons we can learn from the releases we got. Whether it be Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, or Oblivion Remastered, I think there are just pages to take out of those playbooks no matter who you are. It doesn't have to be this flash in the pan moment like, man, remember when gaming was great that 1 week in October? I don't think gaming is miserable, but no doubt the industry has been consumed by a lot of questionable business decisions, whether it be massive amounts of layoffs to regulate the business to throwing thousands of people at a single idea. It's just not sustainable. And then of course, in the middle of all this are conversations about $80 video games. This is what it has to be. This is the economy of the industry. But I think both games we got last week in Expedition 33 and Oblivion Remastered actually say the exact opposite. It shows that these types of games are possible, that these successes, mind you, are also possible. It kind of just depends on where your expectations are, as well as how many resources you throw at it. I'm going to break it down here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. If you're new here, you're into what's going on in the games industry, consider subscribing. So really the heart of this conversation is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I reviewed it over on Retro Rebound. Appreciate the support on that video, by the way. Over 100K viewers. Love to see it. But that is one of the best games I ever played. Like, hands down, bar none, and is easily my front runner for Game of the Year. And I would be very surprised, yes, even in a year with GTA 6, that Expedition 33 gets moved off the ledge from that. When Expedition 33 was set to drop last week, and there was the rumors of the Shadow drop, a lot of folks were asking questions about Expedition 33's potential to succeed. Now, I was obviously reviewing the game, so I couldn't say at the time, but I was playing it like, they're going to be just fine. Like, this game's amazing. It's going to make a name for itself. And I'm glad to see, though, that I was proven right. So if you go over to their Twitter account, they say, and here we are, 3 days after launch, 1 million copies sold. They do put a note at the bottom that this includes units shipped to retailers and does not encompass our awesome Game Pass players. Thank you all. Now, you also go to Steam, and you'll see here that for a turn-based RPG, incredible numbers here, over 100K concurrent players at its peak. What a weekend for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. They have to be so happy about what they got here. And here's the best part. This is a $50 game. Something we're going to try our best to break down how we got to that price point. But first thing I want to show you is their team. I love their team website. This was something I looked at immediately when the game was announced at Xbox's showcase last year. It's Sandfall Interactive, and when you scroll through, you get all of their team. You know, you get the directors, you get the writers, and you get their favorite games. You get to look at the faces behind the project you love. Now, interestingly, you'll see that they can fit their entire team in a single page. Most teams require credits that go on for 15 minutes to fit everyone who is involved in the project. And by the end of scrolling through this page, you'll learn that there are 33 human teammates and then one dog. So there's actually 34 if you want to include the happiness manager. But nonetheless, 33 people made Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And when you play it, I imagine many of you watching this video have already, or at least looked into it. Does that really look like a 30-ish person team effort to you? I imagine you look at this and go, wow, they really threw some serious budget into this thing. They probably have hundreds, if not thousands of employees, because to be frank, that's kind of what we've been trained to think after the last year of layoffs and, of course, oh, we're too big. And you have teams like Ubisoft, for example, throwing 20,000 people into multiple projects. You have companies like Bethesda with hundreds of people, Microsoft with thousands of people. Like, they're all throwing insane amounts of manpower, but yet in some cases coming up very short. And then you see what's happening here. Clair Obscur, 30-ish person team, makes a game that looks very AAA, but is being referred to as AA, and does not compromise on its story presentation, whether it's the motion capture technology or the amount of cutscenes it has. Like, there's a point in the game, I won't spoil when, but it's a literal movie. Like, it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. It doesn't compromise on its scale. It's a big world. It doesn't compromise on even the amount of content that's within that world. It's a 30-hour story, which is plenty nowadays, in my opinion. It does not need to be this 100-hour adventure, but you can easily double that playtime if you want to do all the side content. Again, before I continue, this does not need to be a flash in the pan moment, but I endlessly admire what Sandfall Interactive is doing here, because this is the template to follow in a lot of ways, at least in organization, in structure, and in player-first mentality. This is a game that every step of the way does not waste your time. You explore a corner of the world, you find a Pictos, you move forward with the story, you're probably going to get a cutscene anytime now. Every step of the way, they make sure that you are prioritized. That's a good way to get my money. Obviously, if it's good, keep that in mind. But the other thing is clear resource management. When you go through the credits of Expedition 33, right away, you're going to see a lot of names that are not here on this list. Outsourcing is a big part of game development, no doubt about it. But that's why when you start with a strong foundation, a strong vision, and then you reach out for the mercenaries, the helping hands that push your game to the next level. If you have that clear direction, like we need VFX support, we need animation support, whatever it may be, you can grab that help wherever from freelancers. But if you have a clear direction, which this game, I mean, you play it for an hour and you know it knows exactly what it wants to be, what it exactly wants to call back to, that foundation is what gives this game the ability to be made at its core by 30-ish people and then branch out to dozens and dozens of freelancers to then push this game to a whole new level. This is not to, by the way, sell short the bulk of the work that fell to the squad you see on the team page here, but what they have done is nothing short of something tremendous, but also something that should be studied, but also at least attempted to be replicated. I said it in my review. I'll say it again. I almost felt bad when I finished the game and I looked it up like, okay, how much is it? I saw $50. My jaw hit the floor. I was like, 50? This game, $50. And there is something to be said, and I by the way, this is me just shooting guesses out there, but there is something to be said also about just being company first. This is their first game. If you want to get beyond game one nowadays, there are concessions you might want to make. You want to price your game in a place where it's like, what makes it the easiest purchase in such a competitive market? This is a self-aware game in every single sense. It's self-aware in what turn-based has been established as. It's self-aware in how storytelling's done, but also on a product standpoint, its marketability is incredibly self-aware. Of course, the game just speaks for itself, but it makes it a really easy jump when you see Nintendo telling you Mario Kart World, which, by the way, haven't played in full, so don't know if it's going to be worth it, but we're pushing $80 there. We see Nintendo pushing Breath of the Wild with its DLC, if you buy the upgrade, to like a $90 price point. Like, we see the industry trying to push the boundaries everywhere they can, and then along comes one of the best games, at least I've ever played, and I'd like to say I have a pretty good eye for that shit. Here comes one of the best games ever that says $50, and it's not like this indie sort of thing where, you know, they're compensating fidelity with art style, which is, by the way, a totally fine thing to do. Some of my favorite games ever, like Persona 5 Royal, do that. That's totally fine. That's totally okay. But here's a title that kind of just has a laugh at the industry as a whole. Square Enix telling you, like, this isn't what you really want. When we do this high fidelity stuff, it doesn't work with turn-based. It's funny because to me, Square is the reason why fidelity-based turn-based went away with Final Fantasy 13, because they did 13, which was turn-based, and then they did 13-2, which is an amazing redemption effort that didn't get enough attention. And from there, all of their games were action-focused. And by the way, I got love for 15 and 16 and played a decent amount of 14 and enjoyed that. But I look at Lost Odyssey and I'm like, no, fidelity turn-based is real, and that's definitely one of the core touchstones for Expedition 33. So I just hope the industry at large looks at this and sees exactly what Sandfall Interactive has accomplished and understands that it's not an impossible task. It does help that this game was primarily made in France. You know, that's a big part of this all, right? We have to think of the economy, because we saw a similar thing happen with Warhorse Studios and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where, yes, making games in the States right now is extremely expensive because the living costs are ridiculous right now. So there is also that win where developing games in different parts of the world, or if you're recruiting talent, hiring talent globally can get you a very long way, especially if that talent, as we can see here with this game, is really good. So that's a lot of the, at least my guess, to a lot of the hows behind Expedition 33, but it's a game you should absolutely play for yourself. For the second half of this video, I want to shift my attention to another, I think, lesson the industry can learn, which is sometimes companies just sitting on their hands for way too long. I've been covering Bethesda Game Studios content since Skyrim. I've been playing their games since Morrowind. There is one thing I know that this fan base that I have covered for pretty much half my life has wanted, and that is remasters. This is obviously an excellent remaster from Bethesda and Virtuos. They have knocked it out of the park, redefining what a remaster can be and also how it can be released. This is something I don't think Bethesda gets enough credit for. They completely changed the game with Fallout 4. Whether you like it or hate it, Fallout 4 changed how marketing cycles work. Fallout 4 changed how release cycles work. You didn't have to wait a full year or two before you played Fallout 4. You had to wait 5 months. That was unheard of at that time, and it became more and more of a staple, and now you see Bethesda finally gets what they always wanted to do with Todd Howard, which is just first time you hear about it, officially, mind you, not in the unofficial capacity, but officially you hear about it and it's available that day. But at the heart of that conversation with Bethesda Game Studios is a lot of videos I've made in the past talking about primarily, admittedly, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. Hey, can we remaster them for PS4 and Xbox One? I remember making videos like that. What's going on there? And Bethesda continuously said, and I was willing to understand that, hey, we don't want to go in and change the game that you love. We want to give you the game that you love again, so that's why we embrace backcompat. But I always argued that, well, what about the PlayStation fans who can't really access some of these older games? Sure, there's cloud streaming options, but like, what about a native solution? And also, I adore these games from top to bottom, but I want more people to experience them. So there's that bonus to the re-release. And hey, not everything here is perfect, where maybe there are some things that could be touched up. And interestingly, Bethesda doing the simple thing of just giving people what they want has brought Oblivion to a whole new level. I've seen it bring up conversations that I haven't seen in ages, which is Oblivion better than Skyrim? And I get the conversation because Oblivion's phenomenal. It's an amazing game. Its quest design especially will stand out to a lot of people who haven't played it yet compared to, say, even Skyrim, which I think also has excellent quest design and a world to explore. It's a game that rewards choice. It's like the perfect hybrid, like I've said before, between Morrowind and Skyrim. But that's how good this Oblivion remaster is we've now entered that era of the conversation of comparing and contrasting two absolutely titanic fantasy open world games. But it all started with Bethesda doing something that I don't think they've done for a while, if I'm honest, and that is just giving the people what they want. People have wanted these games to come back in a meaningful, fresh way for a while. I know they wanted to do Starfield. I will never give them shit for that. I know they felt they had to do 76. I can try to understand that one, but at the heart of this are decisions that benefit Bethesda first, which is an important part of the formula, right? Like, as artists, you have to make what you want. That has to be the buy-in there, but you also have to have that mutual understanding, the handshake with your audience that, like, this is going to be something they dig too. It was a risk to go out and do a new IP, especially when you have two established global brands in Elder Scrolls and Fallout. So to me, Oblivion Remastered isn't just a win for, hey, it's great. Obviously, that is the biggest win of it all. But there are companies like, hey, even the one that owns Bethesda, like Xbox, who own a slew of IP that I'd love to see hit the market again and just give the people what they want. And that's something that I see Bethesda embracing here. They're also embracing more collaboration than I think ever before. Bethesda was always a typical, I'd say, homey studio. Like, it's everyone at Bethesda Game Studios, and obviously, like any company, they outsource work, and they've had partners for a while, like even Double 11, for example. They've always had that, but to do it on such a public level, like, this is Virtuos. They made this possible. And to see some of the animation quality that they bring to the forefront with a game like Oblivion, where it's not perfect, but it definitely modernizes it a bit more, and in some cases, I've heard people saying, like, this is better animation work than anything Bethesda's done, which is an interesting conversation because Bethesda, after Fallout New Vegas, seemed very hesitant to, I will use the internet's terminology, expose themselves, right? Like, oh, we're not as good as the others. That's the kind of galaxy brain theory that people came up with. But for Bethesda to put the player first and be like, this is what they want, right? In the case of, here's Oblivion Remastered. Like, you wanted this, we're giving it to you, I think is just a really good sign, because we need more companies that frankly give the players what they want in the terms of, like, the product itself. I say it that way specifically because I don't mean the creative vision. I think a lot of people get way too carried away with thinking they can dictate what artists who are very motivated and passionate can work on, like their printers. You press a button, you're like, make this for me, would you? Like, that's just not how it works. But I do think there is a, as you build a heritage with a company, like, I think Bethesda should be hiring huge Elder Scrolls fans who eventually want to go back and work on these older games that kind of raised them into the fan they are today and led them to that journey to Bethesda Game Studios. Also, you saw on the presentation for the reveal stream of Oblivion Remastered, a lot of these employees have been there since Oblivion, helping launch that, and they get to be there to relaunch it and see a whole new audience just explore that world again and understand that world again. It's incredible for everyone. So I just think there's wins all over. And if I were to throw another giving the people what they want in there, it's my obligatory mention of 100-line Last Defense Academy. You may not have heard of this game, but it is from the team that brought us Danganronpa. And just bear with me a moment. I know this is not the type of game I usually talk about on the channel, but it is to the central point of the conversation. When Kodaka, the creator of Danganronpa, and his team left behind Spike Chunsoft to go make their own in Tokyo Games, they went on to make a lot of games that were flirting with ideas from Danganronpa, which fans really wanted, but they never really, in my opinion, came close to making anything nearly as good. And in some cases, games that just were bad, unfortunately. But 100 Line Last Defense Academy, I reviewed it on Retro Rebound, is fantastic. It has the visual novel Danganronpa flair. At the same time, it's a turn-based tactics game. It's got a weird exploration mode. It's got hilarious dialogue. This is what the people wanted. And it felt like for a while, Kodaka and his team were trying to do everything but that. They'd flirt with Danganronpa ideas, and people are like, we just want interesting mystery games, dude. Like, give it to us. And that's exactly what they did here. So I think even though it's one that's flying under the radar for people, it comes into that conversation for me where last week was a week that I don't think needs to be this idealistic flash in the pan dream for us all. It's like, we can clearly make big budget feeling games on a AA budget. We can clearly give the people what they want and still make sure the artists are taken care of. We can still do all of this. I think it just, again, depends on one, where you're willing to look, and two, what teams are actually willing to think of what it's like to be a player. I've noticed as I've gotten into my own development experience and spoken with others, some are really disconnected, as far as I'm concerned, from the idea of what it was like to be a player. And they create this expectation of like, well, we threw like 300 people at this thing and 7 years of work and millions of dollars. They should care. And it's like, well, that's not, I wish that's how it worked, but that's not how it works. They just care, as we always do, about the end product. I think it's an important part of the story and can give context to the thing you like or dislike, but that's all it really serves at. At the end of the day, it is about that end product. And I feel like these are 3 releases that just understood that from top to bottom in pricing, in product quality, and you see they're being fairly rewarded for it. You see 1 million copies sold for Expedition 33. You see Oblivion passes 200K over the weekend with a combined 4 million players for Oblivion Remastered. So no need to be concerned at all if, you know, Oblivion Remastered has drowned out Expedition 33. It kind of is a Barbenheimer moment where it's just like both are doing really well, and that's where gaming's winning. So again, what an excellent week for gaming, but I just want to have this conversation is like, this doesn't have to just be that one singular W of a week. Like, we can bring back these old IP in new and exciting ways. We can do that. We can make these games that feel big budget if the projects are well measured and the creative vision is understood. Especially, I'd love to pick the head of Sandfall Interactive's brain a bit and just get to know the process and like how this truly came to be. But this is kind of my understanding based on reading I did, research I did, personal experience, that sort of thing. But just excellent job all around. Clap, clap, clap for the games industry. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about Expedition 33, Oblivion Remastered? Don't leave 100 Line out of the conversation. I know most of y'all aren't weebs like me, but come on. Keep a little Last Defense Academy in your brain. Leave your comments down below. Other than that, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.